Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to meticulously map out the dense, minute-by-minute timeline of November 22nd, 1963. Now, you know the date. It is quite literally etched into the collective memory of the world. But today we're looking past the broad strokes to dissect exactly how the macro politics of the Cold War collided with one isolated individual on a single street in Dallas, Texas. We're going to break down the exact movements, the exact motivations, and the truly unbelievable sequence of events that unfolded on that fateful day. To truly understand this, we have to drop straight into the action with a relentless ticking clock. Picture this. It's a clear, crisp, and just incredibly colorful winter day. Miraculously, the heavy rain from the night before had completely stopped. At 11:30 a.m., Air Force One touches down at Dallas Love Field. By noon, President John F. Kennedy, alongside his wife Jackie and Texas Governor John Connally, is traveling right through downtown Dallas in an open-top motorcade. The streets are absolutely packed. We're talking an estimated 150,000 spectators gathered, throwing confetti, just hoping to catch a fleeting glimpse of their political hero. The atmosphere is totally electric. As the motorcade turns off Main Street and heads into Dealey Plaza, Governor Connally looks out at these cheering crowds, turns back to the president, and delivers this line: "Mr. President, you can't say Dallas doesn't love you." It is exactly 12:29 p.m. I really want you to hold on to the eerie, stark juxtaposition of those words, because mere seconds after he says this, the entire trajectory of the 20th century is violently interrupted. But right here at 12:29 p.m., I want us to freeze the clock. To really grasp why this tragedy shook the globe so deeply, we have to step back for a second. What did the world actually look like at this exact moment? Who was the man sitting in that car, and what were the enormous global stakes resting on his shoulders? Well, the early 1960s was an era completely defined by the suffocating pressure of the Cold War, and this brilliantly illustrates just how terrifyingly close the world was to the brink. Think about the geopolitical flashpoints happening all at once. You've got a failed summit with Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev in Vienna. You have the physical construction of the Berlin Wall, literally dividing the free and communist worlds. There's the escalation of U.S. military advisors in Vietnam, hitting 11,000 by 1962. And, of course, the Cuban Missile Crisis, where a strict quarantine was initiated to halt Soviet nuclear missile bases in Cuba. Jackie Kennedy later revealed that the constant threat of communism and the shared dread of nuclear destruction literally kept her husband up at night. The world was on a razor's edge. Yet, contrasting all that immense geopolitical dread was JFK's incredibly unifying charisma. He just possessed this unique ability to look perfectly calm in the face of absolute danger. In 1962, at Rice Stadium in Texas, he delivered that iconic quote, pushing America into a new technological age and accelerating the space race. Through his speeches, from Houston to West Berlin, Kennedy firmly established himself as the idolized face of freedom and technological optimism for the entire Western world. Now, what's really interesting about this is the sharp juxtaposition between the man in the motorcade and the man waiting in the building above. It's striking. On one side, we have JFK, a decorated World War II naval commander, an award-winning author, and the charismatic leader of the free world. And on the other side, we have a 24-year-old named Lee Harvey Oswald, a man with a highly transient childhood, a former Marine who received an undesirable discharge, and a deeply isolated defector. Two totally different lives, rushing toward a violent intersection. To understand Oswald, we have to look at the ideas that completely gripped him. Since he was just 15 years old, Oswald became deeply obsessed with Marxist ideology. He immersed himself in socialist literature, aggressively rejecting American capitalism and idolizing the Soviet way of life. But while he was intensely focused on these political manifestos, it's worth noting that his peers at school didn't exactly see him as a sophisticated political radical. In fact, his closest school friend simply thought he was reading paperback trash. But Oswald wasn't just reading. In 1956, he joined the Marine Corps. And that number, 212, that is incredibly important. That was Oswald's official marksmanship score in December of 1956. The military officially labeled him a sharpshooter. This is an absolutely crucial historical fact because it establishes exactly what he was physically capable of doing with a rifle. Following his discharge, Oswald's timeline becomes increasingly erratic. In 1959, he took a massive, drastic step. He defected to the Soviet Union. He marched directly into the U.S. Embassy, renounced his citizenship, and even offered up radar secrets he had learned in the Marines. But his Soviet dream quickly soured. The pay was poor, the life was boring. By 1962, he had married a 19-year-old pharmacology student named Marina, and the two moved back to Texas. Then comes a genuinely startling precedent. In April 1963, Oswald attempted to assassinate a fiercely anti-communist former Army commander named Edwin Walker, firing a rifle at him right through a window. He missed, and the crime actually went unsolved at the time. Which brings us to the weapon itself. In March 1963, browsing a mail-order pamphlet under the fake alias A. Heidel, Oswald purchased a second-hand 6.5mm Kirkano rifle. The cost? Just $29.95. It is incredibly sobering to look at that low number and realize the tragic global scale of the event that would be carried out with such a cheap, accessible weapon. Let's move to the final weeks and see how this desperation absolutely escalates. Oswald's anti-American activism was ramping up fast. He was arrested in New Orleans after a scuffle while handing out pro-Castro flyers. In September, he traveled all the way to Mexico City, desperately trying to get a visa to Cuba, but was flatly denied by both Cuban and Soviet officials who viewed him with deep suspicion. Returning to Dallas, a neighbor helped him get a job at the Texas School Book Depository on October 2nd. Meanwhile, enraged that the FBI was checking in on his wife, Oswald actually walked straight into their Dallas headquarters and left a written bomb threat for Special Agent James P. Hosty. He was a deeply erratic, increasingly desperate man, uniquely positioned right over the motorcade route. So we arrive at the morning of November 22nd. Oswald's routine that day is remarkably chilling. He leaves $170 in cash and his wedding ring behind for his wife Marina. He then catches a ride to work with his coworker, Wesley Frazier. In his hands, he's carrying a long, bulky paper bag. When Frazier asks about it, Oswald calmly replies that it's just curtain rods for his room. Okay, unfreeze the clock. We snap right back to Dealey Plaza. It is 12:30 p.m. From his sniper's nest hidden away behind boxes on the 6th floor, Oswald fires. The first shot misses the car entirely, sending concrete shrapnel into a bystander down on the street. But the second shot finds its mark, passing right through President Kennedy's neck and continuing straight into Governor Connolly's back, hand, and thigh. Kennedy slumps toward Jackie. Then, the fatal third shot strikes the president directly in the head. In mere seconds, the vibrant celebration in Dallas turns into absolute, pure panic. The clock continues to tick, and the pace here is relentless. Just 2 minutes later, at 12:32 p.m., a Dallas patrolman rushes into the depository and confronts Oswald in the second-floor cafeteria. But Oswald is frighteningly calm. In fact, his superintendent actually vouches for him, assuming he was just on a lunch break. Oswald calmly slips out, catches a bus, and then a cab. Meanwhile, at 1 p.m., over at Parkland Hospital, President Kennedy is officially pronounced dead. Over in the Dallas suburbs at 1:15 p.m., veteran police officer J.D. Tippit spots Oswald walking down the street. He matches the suspect description broadcasting over the radio. When Tippit stops him, Oswald's calm finally breaks. In a total panic, he draws a revolver and murders Officer Tippit right there on the street. Just half an hour later, the absolute devastation of what just happened on that crisp Texas morning washes over America and the world. CBS News anchor Walter Cronkite breaks into daytime programming, famously takes off his glasses and delivers this agonizing flash. The symbol of Western freedom and the vibrant optimism of the 1960s was gone. Back in Dallas, the police work is incredibly rapid. By 1:20 p.m., investigators find the sniper's nest and the 6.5mm Kirkano rifle, which is quickly traced right back to the alias A. Hiddle. As police sirens blare across the entire city, Oswald ducks into a local movie theater without paying. Alerted by a suspicious local, 15 police officers surround the theater. A massive struggle ensues inside, and by 1:50 p.m., Lee Harvey Oswald, the man matching the description for both the president's and Officer Tippit's murders, is dragged out and taken into custody. So the crucial point is that the physical evidence mounted incredibly fast. During his interrogations, Oswald emphatically denied all involvement to the press, claiming he was just a patsy. But a paraffin test checking his hands and face for recent gunshot residue came back positive. Based on that physical evidence, the rifle purchase, and the murder of Officer Tippit, Lee Harvey Oswald was formally charged with the murder of President John F. Kennedy at 1:35 a.m. on Saturday, November 23rd. The stage was completely set for what would have undoubtedly been the trial of the century. The entire globe was waiting to hear exactly why this man pulled the trigger, to dissect his ideological motivations in a court of law, and to let the American justice system run its course. But, as we know, that would never happen. Because just 2 days after the assassination, while Oswald was being heavily escorted through the basement of the Dallas police headquarters on live national television, mind you, a patriotic Texas nightclub owner named Jack Ruby lunged from the crowd. He fired a single shot directly into Oswald's abdomen. The broadcaster yelled, "He's been shot! Oswald has been shot!" In that chaotic, completely unbelievable moment, Jack Ruby executed the assassin. And in doing so, he took the absolute truth and any possibility of a trial straight to the grave. In the aftermath, the new president, Lyndon B. Johnson, convened a massive investigation. That number, 888, that is the final page count of the Warren Commission report delivered in September 1964. Poring over the minute-by-minute timeline, the physical evidence, and Oswald's long history of Marxist obsession and military training, the official 888-page conclusion was clear. Lee Harvey Oswald, motivated by his own radicalized ideology, acted as the sole assassin that day. Which leaves us with this final provocative thought to consider. When we map out this explainer, from the global tensions of the Berlin Wall down to a $29 mail-order rifle, we see how incredibly fragile history really is. How exactly do the isolated actions of one radicalized citizen manage to permanently alter the trajectory of the Cold War and forever scar a nation's psyche? It's a question that reminds us why understanding the precise mechanics of history, the real, minute-by-minute realities, matter so very much. Thanks for joining me as we unravel the timeline of that tragic winter day in Dallas. Keep asking questions, keep looking at the details, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.